Hello and welcome back. This is a reading today from the Pisces perspective. I am a Pisces, so I'm so excited about this. I had to keep this reading for last because I wanted to do it the most, and it was the only way I was going to get through the full zodiac, and I did it. I made it through a full zodiac, so here we are, Pisces. Okay, so I got some cards out on the table that are telling us what's going on. So the goal of what we're manifesting. Ten of Pentacles. We're trying to reach that plateau point, right? Ten of Pentacles is different than the Ten of Cups. Ten of Cups is happy ever after, but now you kind of got to start from scratch, right? It's like we made it through the end of the disaster movie and now we have to rebuild the city or something. Ten of Pentacles is different. Ten of Pentacles is like that relief that you get from actually being able to plan your life because there's stability in it, right? There are like pillars of your life, a solid foundation that you can now build upon. You can plan into the future because you know that like, okay, I can count on this, I can rely on this, that's stable, et cetera, et cetera. There's like a longevity aspect to the Ten of Pentacles. What needs to be negotiated with is the King of Pentacles, right? So what's interesting is that sometimes the Ten of Pentacles comes up with an energy of inheritance. It can be read that way, right? Because there's a generational wealth kind of aspect to it. And technically, it's like to receive an inheritance, you have to be included in the will. And that's all up to the executor. And the King of Pentacles in this dynamic would technically be the executor to the will. I'm not seeing this, I'm just using that as poetic analogy, so take it as it resonates, but I'm seeing this as all internal conflict, that the King of Pentacles is effectively like a stubborn fractal within us that is the gatekeeper to our own success. I'm not seeing this as any type of externalized character whatsoever. Again, take it as it resonates. We're all different, but that's what I'm seeing here. And then the advice card is coming up as Temperance, right? So what I'm seeing specifically with this Temperance card is the way that she's playing with these two cups here, this angel, that she's pouring her cup back into herself. And going back to the idea that this King of Pentacles is a stubborn fractal gatekeeper within ourself, that it's talking about giving ourselves permission to level up, right? Recognizing that we are the executor of our own divine will, so to speak, and that we can give ourselves the permission that we typically outsource, right? Because again, the King of Pentacles would be the permission giver, the validator, the co-signer, the grant, whatever it is. It's like that's very much so this energy. And it's about leveling up and playing this role, right? Because Ten of Pentacles is very much so about leveling up. It's a save point in the game. It's a checkpoint. Very much so a save point because you don't go retrograde from here. You can progress. You know, nothing ever really stays the same forever, but there is a degree of stability in terms of like, okay, I know I can at least count on this for now, and I can count on it enough that I can plan on top of it, right? What the universe wants to remind us that our superpower is coming up as the Page of Wands, right? So this is going back to, I believe it was the Leo reading, which was talking about utilizing the superpower of the voice. And I think that was coming up because of some sort of swords energy, whether it was the Ace of Swords, Queen of Swords, there was something in there that was talking to me about the voice. But I'm seeing this much differently in terms of the way that the voice is being utilized. So in that reading, it was kind of coming to, or it was reminding me of the Jedi, you know, these are not the drones you're looking for, or the Bene Gesserit in Dune, how they can like command with the voice. The Page of Wands in this reading, your superpower, Pisces, is talking about making a statement of intent to the universe, to the construct, to the divine itself, right? Whereas in the Leo reading, I feel like it was talking more about peer-to-peer engagement, like actually having conversations with people here and how the voice can affect the collective and external players outside of ourselves. Here, the voice is talking about making a declaration of intent, a statement of intent to the universe itself, and recognizing that power. And because it's wands, specifically the Page of Wands, you can see it has this solar medallion here, right? And there's been a theme. I think this was the collective reading. I don't know if it was the first or second one that I did, but it was talking about utilizing the solar plexus as the fuel, the combustible material that's required to launch the rocket that is our manifestation, right? And that solar plexus energy is it can register as a spectrum of emotions, right? So at one end of the spectrum, it's anxiety, fear, all of those things. At the other end of the spectrum, it's excitement, anticipation. It's a very ecstatic energy. And the Page of Wands sometimes reminds me of this is a historical anecdote. It comes from Norse culture, Norse mythology, or some sort of like Northern European something, where there was a particular practice of manifestation amongst a particular type of religion. I'm butchering all of this, I'm sorry, but it was Viking culture. There we go. It's within Viking culture that their priestesses would practice what they called seething, right? If you're seething with anger, you're seething. And what they would do is go to a mountaintop and work themselves into an absolute frenzy of just like rage and anger and blah blah blah. And the reason why they did this in Viking culture is because Viking culture was a war-based culture, right? So everything they were trying to manifest was basically related to war. But they would kind of get into these frenzied ecstatic states and they would make their declarations of intent. And I'm using that analogy to say that it's like I've noticed in my own practice that sometimes when I get really frustrated and I finally have that moment where I explode, and like usually like we all have our thing that we do, right? So usually I'll take something that's like not breakable, like a box like this, and I'll just throw it and be like, I just need like my moment. That there's a manifestation that comes right on the other side of that. And I've noticed that where I'm like, what is that? Why is it that when there's like this crazy energy that like something manifests, right? But there's something combustible about that intent, right? Because usually I'm also saying something when I'm doing that that's like things should be like this and this is the way it should be. And it's kind of like saying like Pisces, that's the secret to it. It's like not tiptoeing around it, because I think Pisces by nature are very gentle kind of energies. So being like a King of Pentacles kind of vibe is not exactly our sweet spot energetically. And not that the King of Pentacles is somebody that like is intense like that, but it's somebody that's not afraid to declare their intent, right? And really kind of stand on business or stand in their power or anything like that. It is the energy of courage, of finding your voice, of throat chakra activation. But again, it's like working with this solar plexus energy and taking that anxiety, that frustration, all of that, and flipping it into something more ecstatic. So I was giving you the example of the Viking culture and what the seething people would do. Another example is ecstatic worship, right? So people do ecstatic dance, that's the whirling dervishes. People do ecstatic breath work, that's the tantric breath work, the and getting yourself worked up into that kind of state. There's a thousand ways to slice that cake in terms of figuring out a way to really create dynamic energy. And then there's also like what do they call those things, the rec rooms or whatever, where like you go to a room and you smash pottery. It's like inducing tower energy or something like that, but in a controlled way in order to create. It's like that's what the universe wants to remind us that the superpower is, and that's coming out of the Ten of Swords, right? So that's why it does feel like a very intense declaration of like declaring that this thing is officially over, right? Because the Ten of Swords talks to me about being officially done with something, so done that it's like I'm not just going to put one sword in it, I'm going to put 10 just to make sure it's done. And the other analogy that I'll use with the Ten of Swords sometimes is, and it applies here, is going into the writer's room and extracting certain elements from a story or narrative. So imagine if you were writing a book and this book was going to be 20 chapters long, and you get about 11 chapters in, and you start to realize, excuse me, that a person, place, or thing is not working in the storyline, right? So you have to undo that. Either you're going to change that character, that place, that thing, whatever. But now you have to go back and extract that character, place, or thing from the narrative itself and possibly replace it with something else. And it's almost an aspect of time travel, but that's what I see with the Ten of Swords, right? This is that moment in the writer's room where the writers realize this character isn't working. We have to go through and undo this, right? And I've had moments like that in my own life where it's like, how would you describe it? time travel, changing the past. Well, the idea is like, how can we influence the past, right? How can we actually change the past in order to change the future? And I've had moments where I realized that I was not the victim of circumstance so much as I was the creator of circumstance, right? And it was a hard pill to swallow for a lot of reasons, but it empowered me in such a way that I realized, wait a second, if I'm the author and I hold the pen, then I can rewrite the story. And that was how I really achieved a lot of my greatest manifestations, was by going through and extracting the victimhood from my narrative, extracting the disempowered aspects of myself from my narrative, by going through and furthermore disempowering adversaries that I had created, right? Because again, it's like, we're holding the pen, we're the author, we have the authority. So we effectively script and designate the adversaries as well by declaring it as an adversary, right? By saying that I can't do this because of that. I hereby give that the power to become an obstacle, right? But behind the Ten of Swords, we have the Hanged Man, right? Which is the Pisces energy in the deck, right? This is our superpower. The ability to put ourselves in an impossible situation just to prove that we can get out of it. That is Pisces, right? And we don't just wiggle our way out of it. It's like, I think Santero talks about this with one of the Hanged Man cards that shows up in her deck, where it's like doing a standing leap and flipping out of the energy. It's like falling upwards. That is the Pisces magic, right? But we usually Eight of Swords behind that. It's like we get ourselves into an Eight of Swords that leads to the Hanged Man, that leads to us inevitably having to make this declaration of intent, right? So it's almost like there are times that I wonder if, life was peaches and cream, would I have ever learned anything that I learned? You know what I mean? Because the final card behind all of that was the Knight of Swords, which is about doing things with noble intent, right? And I think we get ourselves into a lot of hanged man situations because we were led there by noble intent, right? We went into the Eight of Swords, we went into the maze because, we wanted to correct something, right? And again, it's like, if it was all pina coladas and sunshine, I don't know if we would have gotten there. So I do think that there's many times when we might have created these tricky circumstances just to prove our own superpowers to ourselves, right? Because it's like the X-Men movies. The superpowers don't activate for any of those people until they're in some sort of like predicament. And then all of a sudden it activates. I feel like that's just about every superhero movie that there is, right? That it's like, for lack of a better term, like, I'll just say tough situation induced activations, right? That's what this is. But raise your hand if you're tired of the tough situation induced activation, right? So maybe that's the declaration of intent here, right? Where it's like, I am, have been, and always will be the King of Pentacles. I realize that I've used my pen to give that authority to those that technically did not have it intrinsically. I just assigned it to them, right? I hereby utilize that same authority and power vested in me to assign myself the role of King of Pentacles, right? So now it's like I no longer need a co-signer for validation. I no longer need permission, right? Now I give permission to myself to experience whatever it is that I desire, right? It's not about commanding really anything else outside of ourselves, except for in terms of this Page of Wands, right? It really is kind of commanding the narrative that we're finding ourselves in, right? Because again, this is about, the collective theme right now is about reimagining yourself as the protagonist in your own narrative, right? So the next story that we move into is not another chapter of the same story, right? It's not a sequel. You are a new protagonist in a new story altogether, right? Just because you played Indiana Jones in the last film doesn't mean that you're going to play Indiana Jones in the next film. You might be, anything else, literally, um, in a whole nother universe as well, right? It's like the next film can take place in the Dune universe if you want. I don't know. Maybe you don't want to go there. I don't really want to go there. But again, it's the ultimate goal here is to pour this energy back into ourselves with the temperance vibes, right? That's what I'm seeing, is that it's kind of like, I think this is another kind of Pisces energy, right? It's the desire to the airplane narrative of put on your own oxygen mask before you put on somebody else's. It's like the Pisces protocol is usually to try to put on everybody else's oxygen mask and to prove that we don't need oxygen. Like that's what Pisces do to ourselves. It's like, oh no, I don't need to breathe. I'm going to take you first until we like almost pass out. But then we live, right? We prove, we say, see, I had 10 minutes of air in me. Y'all didn't think. But we're tired of that, right? So now the declaration of intent is okay. Maybe that's it. It's like saying, okay, I get it. I proved it. I no longer need to experience this because I get it. I get that it was me in the ballroom with the candlestick, whatever. And I love it. Power reclaimed, reclaiming my time, reclaiming my voice. I give myself permission to now move about the construct, to allow this to crystallize, to allow this to become my reality. Let's pull some oracles. Pisces Anka. There's no extended for this, but if you'd like an extended of your own, check it out in the description below. Okay, Ten of Pentacles is being clarified by I'm manifesting the right job for me with the right people to help me thrive, right? So that's it. It's like Ten of Pentacles is the full kit and caboodle, right? All that and a bag of chips, where it's like, it's not just about having a great job, right? We've all had great jobs where it's like from the outside, oh yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. And then you get there and the people suck. So it's like, we soup to nuts, down to the studs. I want everything to be an ally that works with me, right? So this is basically keeping the concept of pronoia in mind, right? Pronoia is the idea, it's the opposite of paranoia. Paranoia is everything's working against you. Pronoia is everything's working for you, through you, at your behest, yada yada. The King of Pentacles is clarified by movement. Okay. And that's it, because that's what I was saying, talking about giving permission as the gatekeeper, right? That you're now free to kind of move about things. And this is also going back to the idea of the ecstatic process, right? And the ecstatic ingredient in manifestation, and how sometimes it's like what the frustration really is when you have that explosive moment, it's movement, right? So it's something about allowing yourself to create movement, and as above so below. It's like the more movement you induce in your physical life, the more movement you induce in your spiritual life, or something like that. And then Temperance is clarified by I make an excellent living doing what I love. Right? So this was very much so, because I was talking about the energy, it starts with the Knight of Swords, right? The great purpose. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to go into the maze. I'm going to go into the Hanged Man position, and I'm going to nobly be the one that takes on the challenge, right? But this is an opposite energy where it's like, this I want to do because it's fun, because I love it, because it fulfills me, not because it challenges me, not because it burdens me. Because it's like, maybe that's it. It's like we're struggling with the King of Pentacles energy, and we kept going into the challenge because we needed to prove ourselves to ourselves. At a certain point, I think we can say, okay, point taken. I get it. I'm hard to kill, or whatever you want to say. And it's just about kind of retiring that narrative and allowing yourself to actually enjoy the experiences, right? Going into experiences not because they challenge you, but because they fill your cup, right? And we've been filling cups, right? I told you I started working at Starbucks. Did I use that analogy here? I don't know. I've re-recorded this video a few times, but I've worked at Starbucks. I've worked a million places where I was filling cups all day, all night. And sometimes I get home with an empty cup, right? Because I put on everybody else's gas mask before myself, but it was because, savior meme energy. I have to help, the whole world and blah, blah, blah. But how are you going to help everybody if you can't help yourself, right? It's very much so that energy. Pisces, this was so much fun, my Pisces Ankas, and it's almost a 20-minute video. We got the longest one that was not, it might have been a little bit of Pisces nepotism, but you know what? Shout out to my Nepo babies out there. If you're watching, good for you. I'll see you soon. Bye.